Hey everybody, how are we all doing? Myself, Jack Reeve here, joined once again with Ben Bloom. The first episode of Reeve and Bloom, I'm going to call it, went down so well
Outstanding.
that we thought
Bloom
we'd
and Reeve.
again. Yeah, Bloom and Reeve. Although Ben, I was talking to my girlfriend about us maybe starting a little series, and she
Yeah.
said, "What are you going to call it?" And I said, "Well, Bloom and Reeve, Reeve and Bloom." And she said, "It sounds a bit like a florist."
Okay.
Um,
Oh, because of the
so,
bloom.
but what I don't really know. I don't really
Is your
know.
missus in marketing?
She's not. She's in kind of research, sort of customer research,
Oh,
and
so she probably does know more about it than we do.
maybe yeah. So I don't. That was kind of one of the things I was going to ask the people watching. What could Reeve and Bloom be? Could it be a builder's? Could it be a florist's? What could it be?
A funeral home. No, that's probably not the right thing to say at the moment, is it, Jack? Sorry, everybody.
But how are you
Auspicious start.
anyway?
I'm good, yeah. And I mean, obviously, all of us YouTubey people have had trouble getting content now. We want to put stuff up, but we don't want to put rubbish up and
Yeah,
just, go over the same, oh, how's the season going to finish type thing. So, you got in contact, didn't you? And hopefully, and we're very much led by audience on this because
yes,
we've got distinct things, but we're going to try and do a few different topics and a few different shows. And there could be 5 episodes of this, there could be 700, and it could be on primetime TV before you know it. But that's the general idea, Jack.
yeah, definitely. I completely echo your thoughts. It's really tough putting content out there that you're proud of, but also you've got to put stuff out there, and people seem to like us two coming
Yeah.
together. Norwich fan, Ipswich fan, we're good friends, so hopefully we can come up with something
You get
relatively
you get the odd
watchable.
buffoon who doesn't quite understand that we're not in a stadium flicking
Yeah,
V's at each other, that we are mates just having a chat. But hopefully, um, in a time where everybody's coming together, people can look past footballing rivalries, Jack, which might be a good seg to what you're about to say, my friend.
it's a brilliant link. You've teed me up nicely. Yeah, today we're going to be talking about the East Anglian Derby. What better place to start? Our favourite ones, our worst memories, our first ever derbies, and whether the East Anglian Derby is actually that good, I guess. So, Ben, we'll start with you, mate. Where does the East Anglian Derby rank in terms of derbies across the whole of the country? Is it as fierce as us Norwich fans and you Ipswich fans like to think it is?
Fingers crossed. I think it is. I do genuinely think there's something there. Obviously, every now and then on Twitter you'll see, I don't know, at Vicious Vardy will do his tier list of, and I think people from outside the area, uh, they always, look with a bit of derision at Suffolk and Norfolk because it's out on the east side of the country and the farmer boy reputation. But I think you said it. I think these are your words, that it's Norfolk versus Suffolk as well. So it's two
Yeah.
whole counties. I think the distance is a good thing because it's the only time you go there. Everyone travels this way. Everyone travels this way. I have to say, my sister lives in Norwich, so it's not actually the only time I go to Norwich because I have a young nephew there. But I think it's great, and I come from a position of obviously doing the championship. So, for example, last season I was at both Forest versus Derby, and I was at both Villa Birmingham. I do have to say that's different scale,
Yeah.
especially at Birmingham. That is frightening, and that was the one where the guy comes out of the
Oh, of
stand
course.
and tries to lay one on Grealish, and then Grealish, of course, sits up, grins, and then scores the winning goal. The other end. That was. I don't feel scared when I go to Ipswich Norwich. I felt a bit scared. Obviously, there's Sunderland, Newcastle, and there's the weird ones where Man United and Liverpool and Man United and Leeds is more kind of vicious. You got Southampton and Pompey. Wherever there's Pompey fans, it's a bit spicy. And obviously now you've got Cardiff and Swansea. What is your take on that? I think it's great. It means a
Mm.
lot to me. I don't think the wider football world gets it, but what's your view?
Yeah, I think I never quite understand, and we're doing the exact thing now, so I can't really criticize too much. I never quite understand when people compare their kind of derbies. It's like this is our derby, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't seem fierce to other fans. And to us, it is like when we're in the same division, the biggest game of the season. I don't necessarily enjoy them. I think that's a fairly popular opinion, especially when you're either fighting against relegation or promotion. It suddenly becomes something a whole lot bigger. And whenever we go to Ipswich, it's always a nightmare to get into the ground. You're kind of stuffed into this pub. At least we've got an away pub, unlike Ipswich fans coming to Norwich, which is an absolute disgrace. But it's just not an enjoyable experience. The actual game itself, I think I'm with you. I've never felt scared necessarily going to a game, which is a good thing, by the way. I don't think anyone should ever be scared of going to football matches. But it's definitely fierce. Like, there's been occasions over the past. I mean, I can only talk sort of. My first one was back in 2005, and then I missed a few years. But over the last, sort of 10 years, I've been going to them regularly. There's been some really kind of big moments in them games where you've kind of had to take a big, deep breath in and go, wow, like this is actually happening. And it's certainly a different feeling to any other game as well. It's weird. It's nervous energy. It's scared. It's a whole concoction of emotions that kind of go into the day, and you walk away. If you win or you lose, it's almost that sigh of relief where you go, oh, thank God that's over for another, few months or a season or what have you. So, yeah, I don't think it can compare to the massive derbies, but it's very unique in the sense it's county against county. As you say, a lot of Norwich fans or a lot of Ipswich fans won't venture into the other county for maybe
anytime they go. Yeah,
exactly. Like when I was living in Norfolk, we rarely went into Suffolk. We had a few.
Jack, because of the geography of it, if you're, say, Norwich and you're going to go down to London, you go down the A11 and miss it out. If you're Ipswich, if you're not specifically going to Norwich for something, you don't pass through because there's a big sea the other side of it. There's no, so I think the geography does. What I was going to mention though, Jack, is I'm obviously a fair bit older than you, so I remember when they would play them on Saturdays at 3 p.m. and on a Tuesday night at 7:45. Obviously, well, we have to talk about these sooner or later. But the last one, the 5-1 was on a Thursday or a Friday or something.
Yeah, it was over Easter, wasn't it?
Something weird. Well, that was the last one that they've done. I do, and a lot of people agree with me, I know, from the Ipswich end, that they think that the policing is overkill now, because for years we've had 11 a.m. on a Sunday, 12:30. Even the playoff one was like 2:05, wasn't it? What's your view on whether it could go back to a 3 p.m.? Because a lot of people, they say, oh wow, 2 arrests and 100 quid's worth of damage done, and normally the arrest is just someone drinking too much, and after the 8th time the copper goes, mate, walk on. Okay, look, I'm going to arrest you, after they've been warned 8 times. What's your view on the actual placement in the day, and is it over policed, or if they took that away, would it just be a free for all?
I think it's a really complex debate. I've seen some really kind of nasty things go on after away games down at Portman Road. So you come out of the away end, and then the majority of people are going to then catch the train up at the station. So you come out, you turn right, and then the Ipswich fans are also pouring out of the home end. So you're sectioned by this kind of panelling of fences with police stood in between. So say you're doing that for 300 yards, you're walking towards the train station. Ipswich fans are going in the other direction or the same direction. I don't know the geography of Portman Road too well, but I think Ipswich fans can then go in the same direction as the train station and turn right or something. So you're walking in a similar direction, and then the policing just stops. And Norwich fans and Ipswich fans, it's just like a free-for-all. And obviously, if you're giving lip to each other across the fences, which is pointless, utterly pointless, then people are going to come together at the end of that. And I've seen some really nasty fights, and, that's never nice to see. In terms of the placements of the games, I don't quite understand it. If the game is at midday on a Sunday or 7 o'clock on a Friday, people are going to find time to drink. When I'm not sure what season it was, but I can remember it being like a 12:30 kickoff on Sky. The pub opened at 7 a.m. in Ipswich. There were people coming on the 6 o'clock.
Oh, the 6 a.m. train,
The
yeah.
6 a.m. train from Norwich with tinnies in their hand, ready to pour in the pub.
I mean,
At
Jack, you
8
can
o'clock.
imagine the people that run the station hotel probably circle on their diary. When's Norwich coming? We're going to we're going to order in extra beer barrels for that day. You kind of don't blame them in some way, because if the Norwich fans behave, that's their best paid
Of course, it's
weekend
like
of the year.
they've got 4 hours of constant customers queued out of the door. Even if, and you know, it happens. Even if there's a couple of £100 worth of damage, it's offset by the sale of beer. So I don't think that the timing of games necessarily matter. It always feels better of an evening, maybe because that 5-1 sticks out so much under the lights. It's always really special. But police, like, I'm not a police officer. I'm sure there's a lot of planning that goes into it. There's a lot of money that goes into it. Fans just need to be sensible. We don't make it easy for the coppers. But there certainly needs to be a bit more thinking behind the trouble I've seen outside of Portman Road, and I'm sure it happens outside of Carrow. I can remember watching one of your videos from, I think it was after the Tim Close goal, when you're all kind of stopped, and it was just a bit of a
The worst thing about that, Jack, was that, and I was right. I wanted to get back to my car to do my video. I was right at the front. I had a line of police right in front of me, and of course I'm fairly camp, mild-mannered gentleman, so I'm not going to, sort of chattering to them. And then there was a big push, and then the police pushed back, and I'm like, oh God, am I going to be in the middle of some nonsense here? And then they just let the Ipswich fans broke through the line, and the police just went, fine, through you go. That was the worry, was that fair enough if you're going to have an exit strategy. I know we're talking about exit strategies a lot at the moment, but tell us what it is before the game. Say, right, after the game, if you go to this game, you will be kept in for, tell us the exact time, 45 minutes after the final whistle goes. Please be patient. We can serve you soft drinks in the bar or whatever behind. Please don't leave your seat. But we didn't get told any of that. And look, this is not because I know there's been problems both ends. In fact, the last one at Portman Road, the 1-1 draw where Edwards and Leitner scored.
Yeah.
Was
that the last one at Portman Road?
Yeah. Paul Hurst is unbeaten.
Ages ago.
Jack, Paul Hurst is unbeaten in East Anglian Derby. So you go.
And Ipswich fans said he does nothing. Fine.
Well, he's got a downside. We're going to go through this, and he's got a downside better record than anyone going back to Jim Magilton, put it that way. But Jack, what you're talking about, the barricade finished, I'm not joking, 15 metres outside the ground. So look, we could go on and on about that.
I think the thing is, as well, as I can already tell some of the comments we're going to get on Twitter. Some people go to these derby games looking for trouble, and if that's your cup of tea, fine. But it's not mine. I know it's not yours. Like, I go there for, it's fun, giving each other a little bit in the ground, but it's never going to be more than that for me.
Don't get me wrong, Jack. When I talk about going into Birmingham City, and there was something, what's the word? There was something exciting about the danger, though. That I sat on the corner right next to the Villa fans, and that was nasty. And of course, I wasn't. I was a complete neutral. I was just sitting there. But there was something appealing about that danger. What is it
about? Like,
I don't know.
Where does that energy come from, though? Is that because the clubs are so much closer? Is it because they've got?
I think as well, Jack. You've got a kind of upper working class dynamic between Villa and Birmingham, the different parts of the city, haven't you? Yeah. I think as well, and look, Norwich have dominated the last sort of 10 years or so, but with Villa and Birmingham, there's a real sense that one club is quite a lot bigger than the other as well. Yeah. So there's obviously, what football fans are like, there's going to be a massive chip on the shoulder from the smaller club and a massive arrogance and we'll talk about how fans behave and, perpetuate the thing, because I believe the whole rivalry does come from if you talk to a lot of players, it's just, we're training, we're playing. I get what it means to the fans, but this is my job, and I'm going to churn out hopefully 300-400 of these football matches in my career. It means everything to the fans, though, and that's where the rivalry comes from.
Massively. Yeah, let's get onto some Derby memories then. I guess let's go from our first ever Derby that we attended. What was it like? Was it a good experience for you, Ben? Was it a bad one?
Oh no, it was amazing. So this is 1993, April the 19th. So it's another Easter one because the random computer fixture generator always seems to kind of put them in the same place, doesn't it, Jack,
Yeah.
in the calendar? And this is actually a really good Norwich team, the one that finished third. And I was surprised when I looked it up. Ipswich did the double over them, and it was an evening game as well. I haven't looked up the actual day of the week. I guess it was a Tuesday night or something. Ipswich won 3-1. And all I remember, because they went bang, bang, they scored two quick goals, Jason Dezell and Mick Stockwell, in the first half. And I remember just as a young boy, so I'm 11 years old at this point, the noise for the first goal. And then when you get it can't get any better than this. Ipswich finished 16th. So this is, Norwich were better than Ipswich that
Yeah,
season.
yeah.
Obviously, Chris Sutton's going to score in this game. I just remember the noise for the second goal, and then Sutton gets one back, and then Dezell scores another one for the winner. And shamefully, 1993, the last time Ipswich did the double over Norwich,
Was it
1990.
really?
Yeah. I
Blimey.
hope I'm wrong about that stat, but I had a quick scan down for two W's in a row on the list I've got, and for a league double, that is. I'm
That's
pretty
impressive.
I'm pretty sure that was my first one in '93, first season of the Premier League when football was brilliant. Probably if you watch the game back, it's probably just 500 long balls and five red card tackles. But what was yours, Jack?
Mine was, now I'm just trying to think what my first at Carrow Road was. The first I can remember, I wasn't actually at the game, but my first ever Norwich game was in 2000, I think it was 2005. It was the 2004-2005
You got
season.
promoted.
So we were in the Premier
Worthington.
League at this point.
Oh, it's Premier League. Beg your pardon. So it's season
My
before, yeah.
first game was under Worthington. I don't really come from a massive footballing family, so that was my first ever Norwich game. We were then obviously playing you the following season. Now that was the time when Huckabee scored at Portman Road. You were down to 10 men. Now I'm trying to think what my first at Carrow Road was. I can't actually remember, but it was a really strange, my kind of footballing kind of supporting career, if you want to call it that, so far. It's been really odd for Norwich. There's been multiple promotions, multiple relegations, a massive period in that when both of the clubs haven't been in the same divisions. And then more recently, we've had a lot of games, and there's been a lot riding on them games, whether it's us both in playoffs, whether it's us down near the bottom, whether it's you down near the bottom, us fighting for promotion. So my first real one that sticks out, I think I listened to it on the radio. It was Huckabee scoring at Portman Road to win 1-0. So that was my first one. So a positive start
For both of us.
for
Yeah,
both
for
of us,
both
yeah,
of us,
which is
yeah.
good. So yeah, mine was 2005. It would have been, so a bit later than you, but it's still bonkers. That was 15 years ago.
Oh, stop it.
I think
Yeah.
that 2005 in my head is like a few years ago. It's crazy. Okay, so that's our first one. What's the best derby you've ever been to? Now you can, infer this however you like, whether that's the day you had, whether it was the result, whether what it meant to you, whatever you kind of want to take it.
I think for a lot of reasons, not just for the score, but the 5-0, I was 15 and I went in the North Stand at Ipswich with my mates. You want to be a gangster at that age. And we had a really good side. Mike Walker had come back to Norwich and never go back. He was never gonna work the second time. And I remember as well, pretty sure I'd been to, yeah, I'd seen us win at Manchester City. I think we talked about that on the last podcast.
Yeah.
On the Wednesday night, I just remember having a brilliant week, and I remember watching wrestling with Stone Cold Steve Austin with my mate during that week, and then we all went to the ground. Obviously, I'm 15, and I'm a good boy, so we weren't drinking at this point. But I was there with my mates, and just the game was ridiculous. Alex Maffey scores. And if you look back at it, it's a brilliant goal after about 45 seconds. And
Yeah.
just and we're 3-0 up at half time. And I think I've spoken to Jono about this as well. Sorry, people hate it when podcasters use footballers' nicknames, don't they? I've spoken to David Johnson about this, and he missed like 2 one-on-ones. We could have been 5-0 up at half time. Poor old Andy Marshall didn't have a very good second half, but I'm sure he's going to be mentioned again in this rivalry for being one of the players brave enough to cross the divide. But yeah, just that time of life, the fact that I didn't used to go in the North Stand very often, and 5-0, as we know, is the biggest winning margin in the game. So yeah, 21st of Feb 98, 5-0.
It's really interesting. You kind of met. So you were 15 there. That's a really. I feel like that's quite an exciting age to be going to football.
Yeah.
If you're going for a few years before that, you're often going with a grandparent, parents. And then when you get to like 15, 16, 17, you can maybe start to go just with your mates, like find your own way to away games. And it's like, it's freedom, isn't it, for a little bit? And for that day, it's so kind of exciting. I remember going to a few games at Portland Road at that age. And it really opens your eyes up, sort of thing, because it's like, I can do what I want, sort of thing.
Yeah.
A parent watching me. So.
Yes, and it's not even about football. It's about your future independence. And it's difficult as a 15-year-old because the people you look up to are all the hooligans who are starting all the chants and all the fights and stuff. You're like, I want to be like that guy. You don't want to be like the guy just standing watching who's probably got a really good job and a nice family life, do you? But yeah, no, I remember.
It's funny you talk about the North Stand there as well, because I can remember my first game in the Barclays. So I used to sit up in the Norwich and Peterborough with my dad, and then I moved into
Which one's the Norwich and Peterborough? Is that
so that's the one opposite
the River End?
Yeah. And then when I moved into the Barclay, it was like, yeah, I'm a Norwich fan now. This is where I belong, sort of thing. And now it's like I'd quite like to just sit on one of their nice padded seats if I had the chance up near
Jack, we asked Jim Magilton about this. This is the North Stand with the roof coming right down, which was 10 times louder. Okay, there's half as many seats, 10 times louder. And I look back at one of the derbies as well. The Norwich fans are, I don't know whether, I'm sure there's some Ipswich historians will tell me about this. The Norwich fans are over the other side of the Cobbold Stand. The atmosphere, if they did that, would be if you had the away fans.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you'd worry about missiles and stuff from the ones that are. That's the worst, the stupid thing about it is that people.
But the Ipswich fans are right next to the Barclay, aren't they? Which is
true, but with 700 Norfolk police in between and a massive scoreboard. There always does seem to be a bit of a sense of distance, I think, in both stadiums, doesn't it? The way it's. If you're sat in Churchman's as an Ipswich fan, you do feel really removed. You're a little bit higher up than you can't quite see into them as well. So maybe that proximity.
Definitely. So my favourite derby. To be fair, as a Norwich fan, sort of looking back over the past 10 seasons or whatever, there's been a lot to choose from. I'm actually going to go with last season's 3-0 at Carrow Road. For me, we went into that game. We knew that we were better than you. We knew that we had a really special team. I think the team that we had last season was perfectly set up for a derby because we had a lot of players, as you mentioned earlier, who didn't really care that it was a derby. It was just another game for them. You look at the likes of Tom Tribal, Tim Krul knew what it was all about. He's played in bigger derbies than this. It's not really much to him. Timu Pukki couldn't care less whether he was playing Ipswich or Barnsley. And then we had some players who it meant the world to, like Todd Cantwell.
Stieperman as well.
Stieperman. I saw that picture last week of him kind of holding. I can't remember what he was doing, but it was marvellous.
He was being a shithouse, Jack. That's what it's called. But then so were 2,000 people in the Ipswich stand. And we'll come back to this, Jack. It is tit for tat. We all know it's tit for tat, don't we?
I think he sort of held up like the 3-0 or something.
He was only 2 at that point. Because if you remember, you scored from the corner and it got disallowed. So he turned around and gave it big from the corner. And then obviously, small mercies for Ipswich fans at that point. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, but I was talking about that photo. If people haven't seen it, it's on Twitter somewhere. It's where Stieperman turns around and the photographer's got it. So it's behind Stieperman and facing the away end. And someone played a game last week of zooming into all of the Ipswich fans, seeing what they were doing. It's marvellous, some of the faces. But yeah, that game, there was a lot of nerves riding on that because it was like you were almost down. Paul Lambert returns to Carrow. It felt like you were going to be the party poopers. It was going to be our sort of season to really celebrate. And we went into that game. We thought promotion was on. It was on. but you could ruin it. And to get that early goal after, was it 40 something seconds through Onel, and it just killed the game off straight away. And it was party time after 40 seconds. The nerves, when it was just wonderful. And we played some really nice football that day. Teemu Pukki was electric. Buendia was really good. Stiepermann pulled the strings. And I just remember walking out of Carrow Road on that day. The sun was beaming down. And I just thought, wow, like, what a season this has been. I think it was more the season we were in, and Lambert having his meltdown. Of course, we'll probably get onto that later. Sense of the stands. Everything that could have gone right did go right that day. And it was kind of the story of the season. Like, we played so well. We got a bit of luck. Everything went in our favour. There's been some really magical derbies over the years, but that for me was my highlight, for sure. It was really, really special. Yeah, that was it.
I just got a sick feeling in my mouth as you said all of that. So yeah.
All right, best derby to worst derby then. You kick off, mate.
Well, that's the reason I'm staying quiet, because would you believe? And we haven't spoken about this. We just sent a rough format to each other. I had a long think because look, obviously it's been so bad for Ipswich in the derbies. Norwich have, even going back to after that 5-0, I can reel off Craig Bellamy scoring a winner, Darren Huckabee scoring a winner, Leon Mackenzie scoring a winner, James Maddison scoring a winner, Lewis Grabban, who was offside, scoring a winner. Do you know what I mean? I can reel all of those off. There's been a big sense, and we'll talk about this during the unbeaten streak, that Norwich have been favourites for a lot of these games. They've been, they've had better squads, and they've been on parachute payments and have been out of the Premier League, but there was. I could pick any of the home defeats because it's just never nice seeing, because it's always full. I wish we'd give you less tickets. You know what I mean? It's always full. It's never nice seeing. I wait for the final whistle. I turn around and I leave. I don't want to see you guys celebrating in our stadium. It's painful, But yeah, I picked the 3-0, Jack. I have to say, because it's the only one I've attended knowing we were going to lose, and that makes me really sad. All the other ones, when Mick McCarthy's your manager, you can win any game. Did the
Lambert factor mean nothing that day?
No, we worst team in Championship history, virtually, Jack. Honestly, look, you always allow your brain a little 5. What if we win?
Yeah.
What if bottom of the league beats top of the league? And I assume you're on that 8-game winning streak at this point as well.
Yeah, actually, that's very true. Yeah.
Or it was the start of it. 5% of your brain goes, what if we win? And I'm a stats guy, and I'm sure we probably spoke before the pod. There is no stat you could find to say that Ipswich have any chance whatsoever in that game. And I think it was just the haplessness of that first goal. I just remember distinctly, and I'm a tactics nerd. I'm like, we're playing a 4-4-2 diamond. We're playing a 4-4-2 diamond against Aarons and Lewis, the most advanced fullbacks in the entire division. Yeah. And I'm like, for God's sake, John Nolan, start the game, just come out, just press. And of course, you've got a team full of confidence, and the goal was hapless as well. There was like Skews headed it back across, someone failed to clear it, and
someone got a kick in the face. Was it Godfrey or someone? They went into the header and they got a proper boot in the face, yeah.
But can you just imagine from an Ipswich fan's point of view, it's like, here comes Aarons. No one's tackling him. No, not going to, no. Have you seen him play before? No, not going to, it's gone in they're going to score. No, it's clear, they're going to score, get the goal. Can you imagine the haplessness of it, of setting this whole thing up? Obviously, in the second half, it was Pukki's quality, and particularly the one where he took it really early and put it in the corner was a great goal. You hold your hands up and you say, why is no one watching this guy every week? He hits it early, low into the corners. Get ready for it. But obviously, he was too good for that division. A lot of people talk about the Lambert thing.
What's your recollection of that moment from the end? Because obviously I've only got my eyes, and it was all a bit of a blur. You can't really see what's going on.
Oh, Jack, I was over with the press.
Oh, you were?
I was right. Yeah, I was right there. Yeah, I was right there. So I saw every part of it. Part of me felt a little bit sorry for him because it felt a little bit desperate. It felt a little bit like, and Ipswich fans do, I've heard a lot say, oh, that was a publicity stunt to make himself look like the tough guy. The
Really?
team's, yeah, the team's going down the pan. A lot of people say he didn't lose it. He knew exactly what
Wow.
he was doing. What I can tell you, and what's the big German coach
Chris
called?
Domangala.
I'm not going to
Yeah,
try and
the
say
one
that.
with all the tattoos down his arm.
Yeah, he was shithousing massively.
Yeah, he is a
Yeah,
shit.
he was massively. So he wound Lambert up, and then only Paul Lambert knows whether he lost the plot or that was a big sign of, okay, my team's going down, but I'm going to wave a big Graham Souness planting a flag in the ground thing, and I'm basically going to get myself sent off. Only Paul Lambert knows that. Yeah.
Is it almost one of them things where managers try and deflect the attention off of the team because the team on the pitch certainly wasn't doing what he wanted them to do? So it was almost like, right, let's try and deflect some pressure off of them onto me. A bit of a Jose Mourinho classic trick, isn't it?
Oh, I remember.
In the end, it went the other way. It made Ipswich look even more kind of, well, not embarrassing on the day.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is embarrassing. Some people liked it. Some people were like, because the quote he kept coming out with was, "We're not going to let them push us around anymore."
Yes.
And there does need to be a certain amount of that. And when we talk about the streak that you're on at the moment, Ipswich have been pushed around by Norwich on the pitch for a lot of years. So there is a part of that that's that's right. It's very difficult. It really has split people. I'm sure some Norwich fans found it funny. I'm sure some Ipswich fans will have gone, "Oh, that's disgraceful," what have you. What actually did someone got smashed, didn't they?
Yeah, it was Max Aaron's. I think it was a really bad challenge on Max Aaron's.
And do you know
should
what?
have been a red on
If I
right
remember,
on the touchline.
I think it was Nolan who isn't. I don't think. I don't want to come on a podcast and say he's not that kind of player because a bad foul is a bad foul.
Yeah.
I remember it being strange. Who just hit him? Was it Nolan? Because you'd expect. I don't know, Jonas Knudsen to have done that, or Mauricio Tarrico, or Jim Magilton, or even Matt Holland fairly to just go in and clean someone out. But yeah, it was not. It was not good. I mean, you remember the sun coming out at the end. I remember the rain pouring as I'm walking in. It's so funny how you remember it. You remember it differently.
Yeah, that was a really odd moment for me. It was like the demise of this once great manager just continues. It's like, what is he doing? And I was obviously
madness.
Yeah, I was probably at one of the furthest points in the ground because I was like diagonal to I'm basically right near the away end in the Barclay, and I just was watching. And I was like, what is going on? First of all, I was like, how was Nolan not being red carded? That looks like an awful challenge. And then you kind of see the scuffle, and it was like, what's going on? And then you see sort of Lambert trotting up to the executive box. It was all a very odd moment, but I think if that wouldn't have happened, because the rest of the first half was relatively scrappy, wasn't it? And there were chances for kind of both teams.
Yeah,
and that kind of tipped it, I felt, in Norwich's favour.
And that kind of sums up how depressing it was, because I've said this to you before. That wasn't a bad performance by Ipswich. I know we lost 3-0 in those terms. You could see the plan to stop the goal kicks coming out, and I think they'd had a couple of Judge had put a couple of set plays in, but just sitting there knowing that the teams were just light years apart, and also this sense of how modern and progressive that Norwich team was, and how dated the Ipswich approach was. So yeah, can we stop talking about it now, Jack? I mean, I could pick out any one of the home defeats because that's painful. And there's a story why I wasn't at the 5-1, but I'm sure I wasn't at the 5-1, so that would probably be the worst then. But no, I've just for pure depressing narrative, I've just gone for that one.
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously been to a few games in which Ipswich have won, but I don't think I was kind of old enough to quite understand what it really meant. So it didn't really function in my head so much. I want to go with a bit of a left field worst derby. So we actually won the game. It was Maddison who scored the goal at Portman Road, but it was just quality wise. I just remember watching that, and I thought the last time we kind of played you was you were up in the top six with a relatively decent squad under Mick McCarthy, and you were like, Ipswich are trying to do something here. We obviously went up and got promoted. And then we were back in the Championship under Daniel Farker. And it was like, wow, this could be a really exciting time. And obviously it has turned into be a really exciting time. But I remember watching that game and just thinking, where are we going? Where are Ipswich going? And it was just a bit of a dull game. And I remember walking out of Portman Road that day and thinking, yeah, we've won. And I think we were actually up near it was relatively early on in the season. We were up.
You
near
won
the top
5 away games on the trot, didn't you? And Madison scored in like all of them, didn't he?
Yeah. But I was watching it. I was thinking, although we're winning games, this isn't going to last. We talked about, when you were up near the top of League One at the start of this season, and you were winning games, but you were like, "This is
sustainable.
There's not a pattern here. This isn't going to sustain." And I walked out on that, and I just thought, this surely is one of the worst derbies that I've watched in terms of quality. It was that individual bit of brilliance from Maddison that separated the teams, and that was the story of our season. Maddison was the only player kind of running the show. I looked back at the squad that we put out that day. We had Harrison Reed and Tom Tribal as holding midfield. It was a relatively negative.
Stiepermann left back.
Stiepermann left back. We had Yannick Wildschut, who we somehow paid £7 million for, out at left wing. I think he assisted the goal that day actually. But I walked out and I've never had that kind of deflated feeling. I walked in Portman Road thinking, this is a derby, I'm dead up for it. And I just walked out thinking, when you walk out of football, you don't really have an emotion. It's just the sort of that numbness. So that was
Jack, the last couple of years under Mick, there were a lot of games like that where he was like, I'm going to move the chess pieces around, but I'm going to stink this out first of all. And, it's going to be really, really tight. And we've talked on the Blue Monday podcast about a sense of Ipswich historically now for being bottlers. And there's a big feeling in the last 3 Portman Road games that they've bottled it, especially the one where they took the lead. And that's the whole weird thing when we talk about the first game last season. We were both in the bottom 6, and Gwion Edwards
goal, right?
Yeah, Gwion Edwards gives us the lead, and you just think there's this big narrative. If we hold out and win that game, does Daniel Farker even last?
It's so true.
So
true.
That was a
really odd game. The other sort of 60 seconds I want to talk about really quickly.
Sorry, go ahead.
Is the worst kind of gut-wrenching feeling of, oh my God, we are actually going to lose, was Chambers' goal at Carrow Road in the 89th minute. It was really late on, down at the other end. And I've said many a time, I sit right next to the away end, and sometimes it's glorious, sometimes it's horrific. And I think it's written in a book, actually. I've got a real kind of guilty pleasure of watching an away end erupt.
I always film it for my vlogs.
Yeah, there's something really kind of special about it. People really kind of packed in, and then that eruption of noise. And I'd never heard the away end go off like that before. And there was such relief, there was such passion. And it was like Norwich had played really poorly that day. And I was like, yeah, Ipswich have done it. That's my kind of little unbeaten streak over. That's Norwich's unbeaten streak over. And then for that 60 seconds, it was horrible. And then close scores and it's all fine again. And I sold a load of posters off the back of it.
It's tremendous.
I still get stick about that off the Ipswich fans. Why are you selling the 1-1 poster?
Celebrating a draw. Yeah.
Best merchandise I've ever done. So that was good. And a lot of Norwich fans bought that from Suffolk. So I hope they've all got them nice and safely. But yeah, that's a really good game. It's been a really odd sort of last 10 years, really, hasn't it? Let's get on to the best player then. This can be for Norwich or Ipswich. I'm not going to be picky. Who's the one player who's kind of sat back and gone, wow, they're good?
In terms of the actual games, there's 3 I've picked out, and 2 of them are fullbacks. Obviously, I have to go for Danny Haynes for that period of I think he scored 4 goals in derbies. Okay, one of them may have brushed his arm slightly, but I watched that about 5 times. We'd have a better camera angle on it now. But the arm and the defender's foot it is inconclusive, but it may have just brushed his arm.
Defend him now, mate. It's counted. It counted.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. So obviously Danny Haynes, just seemed to pop out in those games. And I just remember our normal kind of go-to players didn't used to score against Norwich, and I always remember Mauricio Taricco, who you might not remember, he was a great player. He was a fullback in the late 90s. He went on and played for, we sold him to Spurs, and he played in the Premier League, and he's worked for Gus Poyet a lot since. And he was an absolute shithouse. He was a really good player. He was a typical. It's going to sound racist, isn't it, if I say typical Argentinian footballer? But you know what I mean.
It is exactly that. I know exactly what you mean.
The dark arts, and he was always really up for those Norwich games. And you had Darren Eadie and Keith O'Neill, and those quick wingers, and he would get away with some some interesting challenges on them. And there was a game again, I think. Might have even been a Friday night one. It was under the lights and we won 2-0, and he scored the opening goal, and you just like, he never scored. And this fullback pops. It was a really good goal as well, and it showed the football we used to play under George Burley, but don't, because that'll make me cry. And he goes through and he sweeps it in, and it's, when a striker scores, they're like, "Yep, that's my job. Thanks, thanks for the assist, whatever." When a fullback scores and you see that kind of Marco Tardelli look, and he just went mental, and just for him to, any Ipswich player who scores against Norwich, that goes as a big star in their
Absolutely.
kind of career. So for that reason, and then Jonas Knudsen as well, who was kind of just bog standard Championship fullback's gone off and played Malmo, and scored three, 4 goals in his career. 2 of them were against Norwich. And obviously you talk about the away end, and this is another game we bottled. But can you imagine from that away end, I can't even remember who put the cross in. Do you know, I think it might have even been Jordan Spence, which is quite something. And he floats the cross in, and you're looking in the box and you're going, please, where's Garner? Garner even signed by then? Or, but where's Mcgoldrick? Please. And then just out of your eye line as you're watching the cross, no way! And then Knudsen, you're like, Jesus Christ! Yeah. And of course, he ran round the back of the goal and over to us. And that was a brilliant moment, and everyone piles forward. So Taricco, Haynes, and Knudsen, and now I have to sit and listen to 5 minutes about Wes Hoolahan. Away we go. Go on.
No, I'm actually going to mention an Ipswich player in this.
Oh, okay.
So I've gone James Maddison for obvious reasons. Okay. I think one of the most talented and just exciting players to watch for Norwich, and very similar to Wes Hoolahan, who I'll give a mention to as well. The way he had the ability to just turn on the ball, to move on the ball, to draw a foul. He was almost good defensively as well, because he could just relieve pressure. He'd pick the ball up in your own half and he'd draw a foul, and it would just like give you a bit of relief. He scored a goal. Do you
remember the battle with Białkowski in the Chambers and Closer game, where Maddison probably had 3 free kicks and he was putting them right in the corners and Białkowski was saving them? Yeah, we were terrified of him in that game. I have to say
he was really marvellous. I miss watching Maddison. Hoolahan is up there as well. I'm actually going to mention David Mcgoldrick. Now, you might laugh here, but Mcgoldrick was always a player, and even when he's gone to Sheffield United,
God, look at him now, yeah.
When he's in the lineup, I'm scared, and I don't think he ever performed particularly well against us, and he certainly didn't the last time that Sheffield United came to town. But he's just one of them players that I think you want in a derby. It was the same with Waghorn as well. In that kind of team, without Waghorn, you were a completely different side. It was that grit. It was that there was a goal in there somewhere.
Set plays, God, yeah.
Set play. They were the kind of players. And then if you go really far back, your Darren Bents of the world, really special as well. But yeah, I think Maddison for me in recent years, it was in a fairly poor team, unfortunately, and didn't really go on to the heights that we would have hoped. But he was, he was really, really special. Please do let us know your sort of favourite players that you've watched over the years down below, and we'll take a look at them. Right, let's talk about, what do you want to do now, Ben? We've got a few minutes left on the run.
Yeah, let's just talk a little bit about the current streak, which is unprecedented in Derby history. So Norwich are 12 unbeaten now, 7 wins and 5 draws. Look, my plea to Norwich fans here is, this streak cannot begin at the last time Ipswich won. So don't say Ipswich haven't beaten Norwich, because in that case, Arsenal haven't beaten Doncaster for 117 years, yeah, because they haven't played. But yeah, unprecedented streak. So since the 4-1 victory on the 28th of November 2010, that was on free-to-air TV. That, and Grant Holt scored a hat-trick, didn't he?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, Roy Keane was.
It was BBC, wasn't it?
Yeah. Roy Keane was Ipswich manager. We had, who did we have? I can't even remember who we got sent off in that game. Delaney, possibly one of the centre halves. So the big caveat from Ipswich fans, obviously, look, 12 unbeaten is 12 unbeaten, but 10 of those seasons the teams haven't played, and there is a gap of 1,220 days between two of the games. So Norwich fans should get excited about the fact that it's 12 games, but the 10 years, Norwich have been in the Premier League for 5 of those seasons, so they haven't played, and there is one gap, like I say, of 3 years. I had a look at the managers, Jack. In that run, Paul Lambert wins 2 out of 2. Neil Adams wins 1 out of 1. Alex Neil, 2 wins and 3 draws. And Daniel Farker, 2 wins and 2 draws. So that makes the best manager statistically of that run, Paul Lambert. Ipswich managers in that time, Keane had a defeat, Jewell had a defeat, McCarthy had 8 of them, 4 draws, 4 defeats. Paul Hurst is statistically the best with 1 draw, and obviously Amazing. Paul Lambert, incredibly, has been on both sides of it. I just did want to kind of say, looking at the big picture, obviously 12 unbeaten is horrible for Ipswich fans, but the solace I've got is, which of those 12 games have Ipswich actually been favourites to win? Is the way I kind of look at it, because obviously the first season, yes, arguably on the spend, Ipswich should have been better than Norwich, but you're on this mad run, going to go straight through the division. And
you're talking like a gambler who's trying to justify their losses.
Yeah, aren't I? Yeah, absolutely. But then all the other ones, Norwich have got parachute payments. They've just come down from the Premier League, and the playoff games, famously, is Norwich are at that point the biggest salaried championship team of all time at that point. And Mick did well to even get as close as he did when Jerome, Houlihan, Johnson, Howson's still there. Really, really good players there. There's a couple that grate on me in the run, Jack. Obviously the Chambers and Closer one, they should win that game.
That was such a bonkers goal from us as well, because Bart storms out of his box for no real reason. Hanley somehow runs the 100 metres in like 7 seconds to collect the cross, puts in the most delightful ball for Close, and Close's miles up. It was a really odd goal, that one. And you should have won that. You should have won that.
And just, we talked about the sense of bottling as well. A couple of the draws at Portman Road, where they've just felt flat, and they've felt like if we'd have gone for it, we could have done it. But really, you've been favourites for 90% of those games, haven't you? So
for sure.
that would be my get out. But we just thought we'd broken it when Chambers got that goal. But
it felt towards the last couple of games in that streak that, I don't know if it was all kind of talk from Ipswich fans online, but you were kind of got to the point where it was like, we've got nothing to lose anymore, which almost made, when we did eventually win, Ipswich fans weren't kind of as sad as they should have been, because it was like, well, we weren't going to win. It was like, no, we want to inflict pain on you guys. Well, should be feeling down about this. But it almost felt like you got to the point of acceptance.
Well, what we were looking at was parachute payments, and it was always a case of,
does that mean much on the day when you're still...
No, but in terms of the big picture, let me look, it means nothing on the day, obviously. But what we were hoping was, look, they've always been able to make a challenge, always, and then we see these parachute payments running out, and then we think, right, they're now going to be down in the same bracket as us, as a team without money in the championship. Obviously, Stuart Webber turned that into a promotion somehow, amazingly. We've talked about that until we're blue in the face. But there was always a sense that even if we weren't going to get better, the longer Norwich are away from the Premier League and that extra money, the gap will close, and then we have a chance of winning. That was what, obviously on the day, yeah, the balance sheets and history is irrelevant, but that was the hope that you were going to get worse. Can I just run the numbers for you quickly?
Yeah, go for it,
Jack. So post-war, and Ipswich 43 wins, Norwich 42 wins, 22 draws. Hugh Curran is Norwich's top scorer with 5. John Walk with 9 in these games. What a player. Biggest winning margin is 5-0, 3 times, all by Ipswich. Hat-tricks for Norwich from Hugh Curran and Grant Holt, the one we've just mentioned. Ipswich, Dave, Viljan. I think Viljan's was his debut. I don't go back. I don't go back that far, but I think I'm right, 69, that might have been his debut. Someone will kill me in the comments if I got that wrong. Trevor Wymark, we don't have players like that anymore, and Alex Maffey, obviously. And I've just written down controversy as well, because obviously we've mentioned the Danny Haynes handball, possibly, that might have won the game. Someone replayed the late equaliser by Pablo Cunhago, where Darren Bent hits the post.
Okay.
He's miles offside.
Is he?
Yeah, it hits the post.
Pablo Cunhago was always, and this is a complete tangent, so apologies. I think it was like Football Manager 2010, maybe it was before that. He was like 34, the best free agent ever.
Get him in there.
That's enough about Pablo Cunhago.
Yeah, he scored. He was a good player, Jack. He scored at Carrow Road as well in a game where Glenn Roeder was your manager, and we were 2-0 up at half time, and it ended 2-2. That's another bottle job. Lewis Grabban was offside in 2015.
I was going to mention Lewis Grabban, actually. He's certainly an anomaly. He scored, I think, 3 times against Ipswich. He scored some important goals for us. Yeah, he's one of the only Norwich players who scored against Ipswich who no Norwich fans like at all. And it seems that every club Grabban goes to, he leaves and there's some kind of like sour taste in the mouth. Yeah, it was
good player. Very good player,
actually. But yeah, Lewis Grabban, not much of a liking from Norwich fans.
In the game where Knudsen scored, and I can't remember who scored for you. Was it Jerome? Yet another sweeping goal after 15 minutes. I can't remember who scored the opener.
It was Howson. Was it
Howson still there? That's it. Howson did in the playoffs, didn't he?
Oh yeah, I'm thinking the playoffs. No, it was Murphy, wasn't it?
I don't recall. That was at Carrow Road. Anyway, in that game, Jonathan Douglas scores after 5 minutes and it's disallowed, and it is onside. We've had that. We've had that proven since. And you won't remember this. In 1995, 96 possibly, Norwich are 2-0 up at Carrow Road. Kevin Lynch, the referee, gives a penalty. John Walk scores. John Walk's like 37 now. Then a minute later or two, he gives another penalty at the Barclay end and then changes his mind. Walker's literally got the ball to... and bear in mind, this is John Walker. If John Walker's 50, he would still score every penalty that he got. And Kevin Lynch overturned the decision. So there's just been some amazing sort of controversy. I want to speak to Jamie Curran about it. You won't remember. I remember him coming on with green hair.
Yeah.
You're like... this guy's going to score. This is at Portman Road. And it's John Walker again. He's a bit slow and Curran puts in. I just remember him running away with green hair. There's just some...
It's bonkers that Curran's still scoring goals as well and playing football.
He's 40?
He's well in his 40s, yeah.
44?
I think he was on one of the few players who was on FIFA 96 and is still playing football or something.
I just get a sense with that guy of what could have been.
Yeah.
I don't know whether he was a bit of a silly boy when he was in his younger days. Certainly had the talent, didn't he?
Yeah. But, I want to quickly end. Of course, we're in different divisions now. When or how do both clubs, end up playing each other? Going, what needs to happen? I know, like, there's going to be clever people. Well, Norwich needs to get relegated, and Ipswich needs to get promoted. But do you see that happening in the near future?
What I can see happening is we'll be in the bloody EFL trophy next season and we'll lose at home to your under-23s. We thought that might happen this season.
Would you count as a Derby win if you did win?
You can't, can you? No, you can't. Not if it's your under. I know Sunderland and Newcastle played, didn't they? But no, it's very difficult because from our point of view, if and when you come down, you're going to be parachute money again. I don't want to go anywhere near Norwich in the Championship when they got parachute money. Honestly, we spoke about this before. It would be nice to come on a level footing. I know Norwich have earned their stature advantage and their
Yeah.
financial advantage with the many promotions that you've talked about in the last 15, 20 years. You never know. You never know. There could be a situation where you're maybe having a bad season higher up the pyramid and we get you in the FA Cup, and we're having a good time. There's a chance of winning then, but you would likely think it would be in the Championship because you
Yeah.
can't see Ipswich being in the Premier League anytime soon, can you? So, no. I mean, when do you think it happens again then?
Yeah, I think it would be very interesting if we drew each other in a cup. And as you mentioned there, this EFL trophy, is it called that, or the Checker Trade, or something odd?
Oh, it's the leasing.com
The
trophy.
leasing.com.
Yeah, we lost the way to Exeter, Jack.
Oh yeah, was that the penalty shootout one?
No, that was in the League Cup the season before. No, this is peak Ipswich because Lee Martin, who we signed for an absolute fortune under Roy Keane, and he was terrible, scored the winning goal.
Brilliant. Yeah, I know you always mention parachute payments, and over the past kind of few years, it has played out that way. But when you're a Norwich fan on the day, it doesn't matter what squad you've
What
got,
wages you're paying? Yeah, I know.
you're still incredibly nervous because anything can happen on the day. And I know that's a really kind of cliche thing to say, but in them games, I don't think it matters too much kind of what players you've got on the pitch. You just need to go into it with a bit of momentum. You need a few bits of quality, but no matter the financial power you've got or not, it's still, anything can happen on
It's
that
just
day.
difficult, Jack. Quality always tells, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean?
It does. And over a period of time it does, but it still doesn't get rid of them nerves on the morning of a match.
No. Let me ask you this. Do you actually enjoy the games?
No.
No, me neither.
I know a lot of fans will probably have a go at me for this. I haven't missed it this season at all.
No, I haven't actually, to be honest. But
no, and if it doesn't happen for another 5-10 years, then I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Put it that way.
Well, yeah, but all you Norwich fans are going to 15 years unbeaten, 17 years unbeaten. It only counts if we're actually playing.
And you know what? Every single anniversary, there will be another Talk Norwich City poster out there for you to buy.
Tremendous.
All right then, mate. That's good. Please do let us know your thoughts on Reeve and Bloom. Could this be a series? I'm sure we can talk about other bits and pieces. Let us know your favourite Derby game. I know there's going to be Norwich fans, and I know there's going to be Ipswich fans watching. So it's going to be really interesting to see what your favourite games are. There's going to be a contrasting range of ages here as well. My memory doesn't go as far back as some.
If you're over 50 and you're an Ipswich fan, you can boss this debate. Don't worry about it. There's a few 5-0s in there in the 70s. But yeah, no, we'd be really interested as well in the comments, Jack. If there's topics people want us to talk about, doesn't have to be Ipswich or Norwich necessarily. Obviously, Jack's got a bit more inside track than me, but we're across all of the football happenings at the moment. So
yes,
yeah.
No, for sure. And if nothing else, it's a good excuse for me and Ben to catch up over Skype. So, yeah, please do let us know. We'll see you.
Keeps us away from the alcohol for another hour, Jack.
That could be another episode. What are you a wine drinker? Are you
of course I am. Look at the state of me. Of course I'm a wine drinker.
we could have sort of a wine tasting session and upload.
We could be like Rob Brydon and Steve Coogan I can't do impressions though. I'm terrible.
Yeah, that would be the most pompous football video ever. Sipping on it.
Jack, come on! I must have already made the most pompous football video. Come on!
I did actually see a comment the other day actually that was saying, "Are you missing sitting in your car talking about the football? Is there any excuse for you to drive at the moment?"
Well, my Mrs. Grandma is 90 something, and we've ordered some frozen. So I'm over in Bedfordshire and she's in Dunstable. So the longest drive I've had is over there to drop some stuff off. Budgeons is a walk away, and Marks and Spencer's garage down there. No, I am missing sitting yelling at my car and people knocking on the window trying to get in the video. But there you go.
No, I think we've bored people enough today. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye bye.